All right. Now, today we're going to do a special blues guitar lesson in that we're going to talk about singing and playing, performing blues. When you're doing a song and playing chords while you're singing and doing fill-in licks, things like that. And this was a special request of a good student of mine named Jim here in Kentucky that he's getting into singing and playing and was asking about that, and it's not real easy when you're first doing it. You have to really know your chords, and you have to focus on your vocals for sure, but get to where you can play rhythm and just sort of innately do cool rhythms that where you're not just totally thinking about it. And then also you want to be able to play licks. And go from licks into chords, back into licks, into chords, and so forth. So for this one, we're going to do key of G, and I'm just doing it on this acoustic guitar. Now this guitar has a light third string, and I can bend it a whole step. But I know that most of you playing acoustic probably can bend maybe a half step on the third string because the third string is kind of heavy and wound. So I'll kind of avoid a lot of big heavy bends in this. So what I'm going to do is a song that I like a lot, and I've played it off and on through the years. And the first version I heard was by Freddie King, and it's called I Wonder Why. But I think the earliest version, if I'm not mistaken, is on a session with Earl Hooker, accompanying a female vocalist named Lillian Offutt. And you might look that up on YouTube because he plays just dreamy, smooth slide guitar licks on that tune, and just beautiful. And his slide guitar, Earl Hooker was known as a great slide guitar player. He was a good regular guitar player too, but his slide playing was just world class. And he was right up there with Robert Nighthawk and Tampa Red and Robert Johnson, but just very melodic kind of slide playing. And also a lot of Chicago blues players like Otis Rush, I believe when he started, Otis Rush was learning to bend strings. He was trying to imitate the slide sound of Earl Hooker. So somebody definitely worth listening to, Earl Hooker. Great guitar player. Very good, very technical, and also, just wonderful blues player. So anyway, we're going to do that song. Now, the Earl Hooker version is not called I Wonder Why. It's called Will My Man Be Home Tonight? And that's part of the lyrics of the song. So I'm going to do it now. I'm going to improvise. I'm just going to do my own version on this acoustic guitar. And I'm going to transcribe it, at least one verse of it, so that those of you wanting to learn specific licks can learn it note for note. Okay? My throat's getting a little bit, and I'm going to be singing, so anyway, I'm going to start it. All right? I wonder why my baby won't treat me right. I wonder why my baby won't treat me right. You know she's a mean, mean woman, and she won't come home tonight. She's a gambling woman and chases men in between. You know, she's a gambling woman, chases men in between. Yeah, she's a mean, mean woman, the meanest woman I ever seen. Get in my bed, I lay awake at broad daylight. I get in my bed, people, you know, I lay awake at broad daylight. You know, I've been laying there wondering, yes, will my baby be home tonight? Okay, so I wonder why. Now, I'm using 7th and 9th chords. In the key of G, you've got 3 chords basically. You've got G, C, this is a C 9th, and then you've got D, the 5 chord, usually just on the turnaround. And this is a 12-bar blues that goes from G to C, G, this is where you do the licks, and then you sing for 2 measures, C, and then you do licks on the G, and then the turnaround, D 9th, C, and that's the singing's going on, and then licks, C, tag it with the D chord. So it's a 12 bar blues. You have to understand what a 12 bar blues is, first of all. And we've got a 4 chord on the second bar. Some 12 bar blues stays on the 1 chord for 4 bars, but this one goes to the 4 chord on the second bar. And the way it works is it's a trade-off of 2 measures each. 2 measures of vocals, followed by 2 measures of guitar licks, 2 measures of vocals, 2 measures of guitar licks, and then the turnaround, 2 measures of vocals from the D to the C7, and then licks to end the verse, tagging it on the 5 chord, the D7. And in blues, 7th chords and 9th chords are totally interchangeable. And a lot of basic blues players or earlier blues players would mainly play 7th chords only. And 9th chords were a little bit uptown, you know. I mean, they're a little more jazzy sounding, like this is a G7th, and it's just like a G bar chord with the pinky moved to the 6th fret of the 2nd string. That makes it a G7th. And then this is a G9th, and we're at the 2nd fret, and it actually doesn't have a G in it. We consider the bass player playing the root, but it's 1st and 3rd finger, and then 2nd and 4th. So you're only playing 2 different frets. Frets 2, frets 3, fret 2, fret 3, but with 1st and 3rd finger, 2nd and 4th fingers. And then you can hold the pinky going to C9th. That's a little trick, a little secret. You hold the pinky, and C9th is 2, 1, 3, 4. It can also be a barred 3rd finger, 2, 1, 3, 3, 3. And I was doing that in the intro when I went, you know, for a bigger chord. And then C7th, it's like moving an A7th up with a bar to the 3rd fret. And then so that you could either do C7th or you can do C9th. I was doing, I think, mostly C9th. And then D can be a D7. And this is just like a C7, a garden variety C chord with the pinky on the 3rd string. You move it up 2 frets and you've got D7. And that's in this key, it's D7. Or it's D9th, which could be 2, 1, 3, 4, just like the C9th, moved 2 houses down, or 2 houses up. I call this up the neck, so 2 houses up. And then you could do this flat 3rd finger if you prefer, or you can do a D7. Usually in the end of the verse, I like to grab that note with my 3rd finger, so I'll tag it with a D7 at the very end of the verse, at the end of the turnaround. So now the licks that we're playing are basically pentatonic scale, and most people learn this 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 4 pentatonic. Most of us know that scale. It's usually the first scale that we learn. It's the first one I teach for students to learn to play licks and to improvise. And I found that, you know, because it starts down here, most students, when they play a lick, they'll start down here, you know. But if you notice, I was playing mostly on the first 4 strings. So it's lead guitar, so you want to hear high notes. You want notes that cut through, and you don't want to spend a lot of time on the bass, you know, because you don't have a lot of time to do these licks, especially these fill-in licks, and so you don't want to focus on the bass. The first thing, you want to know where the roots are in the scale, and that's the 6th string 3rd fret, the fourth string, fifth fret, and the first string, third fret. And that's the G's in this G minor pentatonic scale. And I'm just playing, every now and then I go down to the fifth string and maybe do some fifth string notes just as passing notes to the chords or to tag the 5 chord. So it's basically the pentatonic scale. Now, I did add what I call tendency tones. And if you understand the difference between G minor and G major, it's that second finger is on for G major, second finger is off for G minor. Now, the pentatonic scale we're doing is a minor scale, but it's okay to put in that major, you know. And often I'll hammer it. And the one thing, though, that you have to understand is that it's always going to resolve from minor up to major. You really doesn't sound very good if you go major to minor. Like if I went now I could go to this note and play the minor, but that's the fourth. But if I play the major third to the minor third, or like that just doesn't sound good, you know. Now, I have heard one Chicago blues artist who I can't remember his name, but I remember hearing him on the radio, and he did a lot of that major to minor, and he made it work because it was part of his style. And you can make anything work if you do it for 40 years. So, but most players always go minor to major, and that's why I call it a tendency tone, because it tends to resolve up to that note. You can also do this minor note up to that major, and that's sort of shifting out of position a little bit. You can also do flat fifths. I was doing that a little bit. And flat fifths can either go up, or they can go down to the fourth. Now that's a minor to a major third. That's a flat fifth to a fourth. And those are called tendency tones. And I'll do another lesson just on tendency tones because there's a lot to it. Piano players use a lot of tendency tones when they play blues because they can't bend strings. When we bend strings, often we're bending kind of major to minor to major, I mean. See? But a piano player can't do that. They can sort of slur a minor to a major and or a flat fifth. You know, so actually I got most of that from piano players, but a lot of guitar players use these tendency tones and they play more around the chord tones. Some Chicago players especially, like Jimmy Rogers, he never really played a minor pentatonic much that I ever heard. Mostly he was playing around the chord tones. Like if you have a G7th, you can play 1, 3, 4, 4, 3, 1, and then that hammered minor to major. But they're thinking around the chord rather than thinking of a scale. And that's a whole different approach. But a lot of your roots blues, Chicago blues playing are guys, you know, from the 50s and 60s like Jimmy Rogers, the Aces with Dave Myers, and they played around the chord tones probably more than they played scales, and they sound like scales. So it sounds like a scale, but I'm really thinking a ninth of the chord and a sixth of the chord, and playing more around chord tones. And then when you change chords, you can play around that tendency tone of that third, the minor to the major. That's a 7 to a 6 to a 5th. See? So you've got a whole set of notes for each chord in the 12-bar blues, and that's tendency tones, which I will teach a more extended lesson on that, maybe 2 lessons in the future. But enjoy this, key of G. I Wonder Why. Listen to that by Freddie King, and listen to my Will My Man Be Home Tonight by Lillian Offutt, accompanied by the great Earl Hooker on slide guitar. And subscribe to my YouTube channel, John Hedger Guitar Studio, and also John Hedger Guitar Studio Facebook page. Please like. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.